Now joining us in the studio to examine the issues is the National Chairman, Inter-Party Advisory Council, IPAC, Yussuf Dantalle. A pleasure to welcome you to Political Update.
Thank you. Good afternoon, my brother.
Now, it's 26 years of uninterrupted democracy. How would you appraise Nigeria's democratic journey since 1999, looking at the pros and the cons?
I will start by congratulating Nigerians and then congratulating His Excellency President Asiwaju Ahmed Bola Tinubu on his 2 years in office, and then Nigeria on 26 years of enduring democracy and sustaining it so far. But if we must look at this, we have to look at what exactly is democracy, and then how are we meant to put the government together. Democracy, as a borrowed concept from the Western world that is practiced there, is a government that is supposed to be put together by the people, by all, and then driven freely by those people who was given mandate by the people, and then in the end for the benefit of the same people. And in doing so, it is expected that all hands must be on deck to ensure that no section of the society or of the populace is exempted, whether deliberately or otherwise, from the process of electing the people. Here, if we have to evaluate democracy and considering the ideals of democracy or the characteristics of democracy, we are far from what is supposed to be. How? The foundation of any building, the strength of any building start from the foundation of that building. In Nigeria today, we have 3 tiers of government. We have the federal government, state and local government. And local government is supposed to be the government that is closest to the people, and that is meant to be the foundation of democracy. But we are all aware, the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria identified or set up 2 different bodies to conduct election in Nigeria. The national election is being conducted by INEC, and then the local government election is conducted by State Independent Electoral Commission. And I can say this without mincing word that there is no election at the local level. This is a government that is closest to the people because of the activities of the State Independent Electoral Commission. And the implication of this is that we see this thing because it's beneficial or it's profitable to the interests of a few persons who are, especially the governors at that period. But in the long run, it is disastrous to the entire tenets of democracy. That is one aspect. And then secondly, what is the relationship between the 3 arms of government? We have the executive, we have the legislature, we have the judiciary. And these arms of government are supposed to operate independently, though there are supposed to be checks and balances. But then the principle of separation of powers is supposed to be upheld. But from what is happening here, where a situation where somebody will come up and say, okay, I bought the forms for all the legislative house of assembly members. The governor determines who become a legislator in his state, determines who become. So,
isn't that also a function of party politics?
Thank you.
Why did the political
I'm
party
going there.
sell what forms to one person?
I'm going there. I will still go to the strength of the way the parties are put together and how parties are administered. So now, doing that, and then somebody will come out openly to say, okay, I made this person, I brought him to this position. It is not the people that elect him. That is an aberration to the principles of democracy. You want somebody making somebody, another person, a governor, making him House of Assembly member, making. So these are aberrations. These things are negations to the principles of democracy. Now, coming to the party level, ideally the party is supposed to be supreme. Okay, let's even take example of the United States of America. I was watching the TV this morning, and then the Supreme Court in the U.S. Are pulling back with upturning some of the decisions that the president took, not just today, and some other things that the president, you can do this, but you do not, you exceeded your powers or the limit of your powers to do to invoke some things. So now here, we do not have such. Now, the political parties, how is the political parties managed? Where do political parties derive their funds? Because you have to administer the parties. We have a situation in the past. Political parties were wrong, were founded, and these funds were managed. Yes, somehow it was abused. But the fact that it was abused does not mean we cannot sanitize the system. You don't throw away the baby and the bad water. Now, individual political parties are expected to generate funds to run the affairs of the party. So, with the situation on ground, it now becomes who pays the piper dictates the tune of the music. So parties are now in the hands of individuals, selected individuals who have the deeper pocket or who have the state resources at their disposal to determine what happens in the political parties. Where the party hierarchy will say this and one individual will say that, and that is what happened. If it doesn't happen, you can almost all the political parties in Nigeria today have one issue or the other about who becomes what. And for instance, like the PDP, there's a secretary here, there's another secretary here, this person. So you see vertical or antagonizing national executive working committee members. So some of these things, until parties are able to determine what happens in the party. So how would you see a situation where somebody is the one providing the funds for maybe rent and other administrative expenditures in the political party, and then it comes to who becomes what, and the person have interest, of course. The person will determine who becomes what in the party. So some of these things we'll have to begin to look at it.
Well,
I'm sorry. Then looking at maybe the electoral body, for instance, like INEC, okay? Who appoints the head of INEC? So now it is one man appoints the head of INEC, the president. And the president is supposed to be subject to election, the process of being put together by INEC.
What are the options if the president doesn't appoint? Because I think this is what the Constitution dictates.
Yes, recently there is a sitting by the Joint Committee, a National Assembly Joint Committee on Electoral Act and Constitutional Amendment, and IPAC have been able to put a wonderful proposal to the National Assembly and what needs to be done and how that is supposed to be done. But I can make copies of our suggestions, our proposals available to you. And recently, too, let me just bring this, a body, the National Assembly, the House of Representatives in particular, a bill was sponsored by the Speaker, the Honorable Speaker of the House of Representatives, Honorable Tajuddin Abbas, and then one other House of Rep member from Lagos.
From Plateau?
Lagos. On setting up of a body who will administer, who will register, administer, and register and fund political parties. But when we look at it, we saw a lot of, we were able to sit with them, interact with them, and then some of, and this is a very wonderful development because INEC is overwhelmed with so many things. But the bill, some of the contents of the bill give so much powers to one individual called the registrar, who can hire and fire at will. And
but that hasn't become law because I'm sure it will be subjected to the rigors of legislative debates and all of that. So if it hasn't become law, then it is not a problem.
I've not gotten to where I'm going to. That happened. We interacted under the sponsorship of the Kuka Foundation and Yaga Africa. And when, I think a week later, it was public knowledge that that bill was withdrawn. But today, we saw that bill, okay, as number 17 of the bills that passed second reading today. So some of these aberrations, we need to begin to at least be transparent and putting Nigeria forward. Yes, it will still get to the State Assembly, the Senate, and then there will still be public hearing. Maybe at that point, what is supposed to be done will be done.
All right. Meanwhile, it's 2 out of 26 in terms of uninterrupted democracy for this current administration, and pointing to various achievements in various sectors. Meanwhile, the administration acknowledges that the country is not where it ought to be. So how do you think that IPAC can contribute to further strengthening Nigeria's democratic institutions and processes?
IPAC, as you know, is an advisory body. We do not have the powers to legislate or implement anything. What we do is to suggest, because all the political parties, the party in power and parties in opposition are all members of the Inter-Party Advisory Council. And what we do, most of our suggestion and advice, we don't bring it to the public or but what we do, at least in the council meeting, General Assembly, we try as much as possible what we think need to be done, where there are suggestions to be made. We made it through the political party in power, what need to be done. But that will not bring it here.
But is that because there are laws that stop you from bringing it to the public, or it is self-censorship?
No, there are no laws. You see, as the name implies, Inter-Party Advisory Council. All the political parties are members of IPAC. So since all the political, as a father, what we do, we don't say this is right or that is wrong. We must advise where we think is necessary, but that is done in-house. But coming out to condemn that this person is right or that, no. But we can, when it comes to ethics of democracy, the processes, yes, we can bring that out. But not when it has to do with a particular political party and what they do. We don't bring that out.
So what initiatives has IPAC taken to enhance cooperation and dialogue among political parties in Nigeria? And what successes, if any, have you achieved, considering political intrigues playing out in some of the major parties in the country today?
In the history of Inter-Party Advisory Council, this is the first time that you have all the parties playing in IPAC. We have all the parties. We have never had this before. And why do we have that? Because we are trying to see how can we harmonize the divergent interests. How can we, at least while we can play our opposition roles, okay, in our individual parties, but how can we still narrow and then reduce some of the pre- and post-election crisis, okay, among us? Because why am I saying this? The common man on the street is expecting the politicians to do the best, okay, to be the role model. So we should be able to contain our own internal issues within the parties, within the family. So, but if we are seen as not able to do that, then that will by extension affect what happens in the larger society. So for that reason, we tend more to bring everybody on board and discuss closed door rather than coming out to begin to throw tantrums. But of course, when election comes, there are interests.
Okay.
Everybody I want to be occupy a particular office, another person, my party want to be party B, want to be what. So there will be that during election.
Okay.
But we try to separate governance and political.
Politics.
Thank you.